Hello, everyone. Welcome to the March 2025 koha-US Cataloging Special Interest Group. And I am delighted because this meeting I successfully claimed host and did the recording thing and everything. So, achievement unlocked. Um, we have so much to talk about. First, um, I'd like Jason V to uh, take the floor. There's been a little bit of tiny discussion in our group about Russian language Z3950 sources. Jason.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jason. I'm at the Round Rock Public Library. So any of you guys do any Russian, like Cyrillic language cataloging by chance? Ti Tiny bit. I know so little Russian, I can't even say a little bit. A little bit. That's the best I can do. Anyway, so we've recently, like in the last month or so, we've started a Russian language collection built on a large batch of donations by some very enthusiastic Russian moms who want to build this collection. And so, I mean, they've been very kind in sending a spreadsheet along with, the Russian, the Cyrillic, the title and author and stuff like that. But of course, there's lots more that goes into a cataloging record than those. Yeah, WorldCat. Yeah, I've used WorldCat a little bit. But so yeah, so trying to find Z3950 sites or libraries for that. Um, the best ones that I've found that I found the most helpful is Brooklyn Public Library, Sacramento Public Library. Um, let's see, San Francisco PL and Vancouver PL have some. San Jose has some. And Multnomah County has some, but I have lots of trouble getting their Z3950 to play nice with our local Koha for some reason. So, but yeah, barring those, I just go to WorldCat and then copy and paste from wherever I can. But if anyone, so my question in the listserv was if it was sort of right when I was getting going. And so if any of y'all have other good, reliable Z3950 resources for Russian language um, stuff, I've actually found it's harder to find like the transliterated, like like the official transliterated stuff with all like the slurs over the letters than it is to do the Cyrillic. I mean, I've figured out the Cyrillic well enough that I can kind of transliterate on my own. But yeah, so any suggestions or advice would be much obliged.
Um, any luck or attempts with the Library of Congress's Z3950, or are you just finding those on WorldCat?
I'm sorry, say again?
Any luck with the Library of Congress Z3950, or are you
Not
just
really.
finding it
A
on
little bit.
WorldCat?
A little
Okay.
bit. Yeah, a little bit. Um, and of course, like some of the records that we'll get, depending on the library, it's like it's just the transliterated, or it's a mix of both, I guess like with anything, you get varying levels of cataloging completeness. I also run an interesting thing like with the transliteration, just sort of talking with some of the moms in this Russian group to try and get feedback from them about display stuff. So I'm no so we use Koha with Aspen, and so most of the records that I've seen have the transliterated form in the 245, and then you have a linked 880 with the original script. But so I've noticed that those two will display together in Koha, but they will not display together in Aspen. They will only display the 245. Like it won't display any linked 880s. I mean, if I were to copy and paste or like type in something in the original script, um, uh, it would show up in Aspen. The record would show up, but it would only display that transliterated thing. So I've taken to flipping those. I'm sure there are some people in the cataloging world who would want to burn me at the stake for it. But but the so if I have the original script in the 245, it'll display. And so kind of thinking of and so I was talking with some of these Russian moms, and so they were actually kind of critical of the official transliterated thing because of like, all the slurs or whatever. It's like, well, this word or whatever that's, I don't know, just for example, like if I'm just typing it in, I'm going to type it in this way, not the way it's like officially here. I'll use like YA instead or JA instead of IA, and so it's like, well, okay, it's not going to show up if it's not just
Yeah.
so. So
I'm a
I've so
big
more.
fan of keeping the original script in the 245
Yeah,
actually.
well, and I think especially for something like this, where I mean, most people who are going to be searching for Russian language materials are going to be familiar with the original script. They're going to have something on their phone or their computer to be able to flip over to that keyboard layout. So I don't know. I guess I have less confidence or interest in pursuing like lots of transliteration for it because like, well, what's the point ultimately as far as the users are concerned? Anyway, that's that.
I like keeping the transliterated title in the record because of, record matching and overlay and stuff like that.
Sure.
And
And
but there's so many options.
mhm.
There's lovely 246s.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is like, if I find records that have transliterated titles, then I'll keep them in, but I'm not gonna knock myself out doing original cataloging and having to like guess at like what transliteration I'm going to use. So I just leave it out. Yeah, Japanese transliteration. I'm sure I know we do Chinese and Hindi also, and I'm sure those transliterations also have similar issues for users. Sorry, just looking at the chat, what Blaine was saying.
We've actually
Um,
brought this up as well with our Bywater rep of the fact that it only shows the one um title option in Aspen and not the translation or the transliteration because we're an international genealogical library. So we have,
oh,
I think we're up to 90 something languages that we've got stuff in. Um, and yeah, the ability to show all three options would be great. The original, the translation, and the transliteration. I think their suggestion was put in a ticket or not file a
a
bug
bug, a
as an
bug.
enhancement. Yeah.
All right. I'll go look for it and I'll see if I can give it a little push.
Yeah. I
Do
don't
you
know that
know
there's one in
do you know
there.
the
I
bug,
don't
what
know that
bug
there's
number it
one in there
is?
yet. We didn't
Okay.
have a chance to put it in. Um,
Okay.
so
I
I
was
don't
just
even know if it
curious.
exists.
Yeah, beside the excellent suggestion to see if there's a bug to support or to put in a bug if you can't find one, I would also take this to the OPAC, the user group that deals with the public more because of the
Mm-hmm.
display issues and the search interface, and perhaps even I'm I'm trying to remember if there's an do is there a separate Aspen group? Oh, great. Yeah, Jason's
Is
nodding.
there? Oh, okay.
I don't know anything about it because I don't have Aspen, but I remember seeing Bob sending out an announcement about it. So I know that they've started up an Aspen Koha group.
All right, cool. Yeah, that'll be helpful on some level.
Yeah, and totally let us know how it goes because although we have very few Russian language, we have Japanese, we have
Hmm.
Chinese, we have yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone. That's all for me.
Oh, great. And thank you, Miranda, for putting in the chat. There's a general Aspen group and a separate Aspen catalogers group. Great suggestions. All right. I'm going to bring up a question that was asked in the Koha Mattermost chat. For those unfamiliar, chat.koha-community.org is the Koha worldwide community chat. It's excellent. It's H2 there. Um, IK24 asked, "Hi everyone, I have a mark edit question. I have several thousand records where the 084 subfield A is duplicated. Now I know how to search for duplicate tags in mark edit, but how can I remove the duplicate tags without looking at every record? Is there a batch delete hidden somewhere in mark edit which lets me keep the first tag and removes the rest?" Okay, I also suggested asking that question of the Mark Edit listserv and the Mark Edit community because they are excellent and super helpful. And let me see if I still have that up. I will find it quickly.
Are the 084 tags identical?
That I don't know.
What I would do.
Charlie suggests, let's see, Blaine suggests Open Refine. Yes, Open Refine, which works within, for example, the Firefox browser. Mark modification templates within Koha. Great suggestion. And yes, Fred.
If they are identical, and get out your pearls, you're going to need to clutch them. And in fact, all of you get your pearls. Dump the whole thing into Microsoft Word, look for 084 and the field, and paragraph break 084 paragraph break, and replace it with 084 paragraph break. So that will find two identical things with paragraph break, and then you can keep doing that until there aren't any left.
Thank you, Fred. And Eric chimes into the chat. Mark modification templates are not great when you have multiples of the same field in his experience. He's tried and failed to do something where we had two 856 and one needed to be proxied and the other one left alone. Angela had said the same. Okay. One other thing I wanted to mention is on another topic, segueing into authorities, the Queer Metadata Collective website. Very interesting. Check it out. And I wanted to bring up too that there was such an interesting discussion in the authorities webinar that I recently did with Bywater about your settings. Like, I went into that webinar I think it's a bad idea to have authority records automatically created. But then I learned that there are libraries that find this actually useful. So I'd love to discuss this more and learn more about it. Let's see, in the chat we have a comment. Oh, you can about removing duplicate fields with Mark Edit. Awesome. So yeah, would anybody like to chime in about automatic authority record creation in Koha?
I feel like I won't be able to eloquently address this because I haven't thought about it much, but we automatically create the authority records. And basically, I feel like it is useful so that, users get the did you mean suggestions in search results, and you can click on an authority and, you get all the related ones. And generally, we're importing most of our records. We're doing mostly copy cataloging. So we're either getting them through batch imports from vendors or Z39.50. And they tend to be pretty decent about having the same form, right? Because it's matching on the string. And then that'll connect it to if you have an existing machine generated authority record. So that's been working for us. We do end up with a fair number of duplicates. And we just have to manage them as we see fit. And then sometimes they need a little bit of love and care when you want to do things like add use for fields and stuff and like really flesh out the authority record. But when one is starting to be used a lot, then generally I go to the authority record and I replace it from Z39.50. So that's how we handle it.
And Fred puts in, what's an authority record? Haha, yeah. Many people do not use them, do not find them helpful.
Don't worry, Eric. I've heard of them. And I have created a few. I just don't like them.
Yes, and yes, Eric chiming in that yeah, some catalogs still do not support authority records. It's true. And also a lot of proprietary systems sell each module separately, and many places just don't buy the authority module. Yeah, I'm looking for the link to the webinar that I did, because since I'm talking about it, I should put it in the chat. I will continue to look for that and find it. It's extremely basic for newbies. In fact, I even start out looking at Wikipedia where there are authority records that probably people didn't realize that those what they are, and I'll keep looking for that. Does anybody have, while I'm looking for that, anything else that, thank you, John. You found it, link in the chat. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring to the group?
Yeah. Hi, by the way. I've never joined this group before, and I've been meaning to for a while. So I'm at California College of the Arts, small art and design school in the Bay Area. They're just very excited.
Yes, I know and love it.
I submitted the request to Bywater a while ago, but this week they loaded some SQL that I created that batch created 6 controlled vocabularies as authorized values, right? Is how you do it for the RDA content, media, and carrier vocabularies. So that now we just have drop-down menus to select for them, which is so nice. So I was very excited to get that done. And my goal is to submit a patch to Koha so that these authorized values come built into the system. I don't know that it's a good idea to connect them immediately to the mark fields as control vocabularies, but at least they'll just be there. And so all you have to do is edit your framework and add them in. But that's a big change for us recently that I'm very excited to have.
That is fantastic. I love that and I want it. Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the group?
Sort of. Some of you who have spent their childhoods reading Peanuts and all the collections they could get their hands on may remember one. This sort of has a point, by the way. It does tie in. Where Linus and Charlie Brown are walking to school and asking what they had for show and tell, and Linus got out some scrolls, replicas, I think, of ancient texts, and he was going to expound upon them. And then said, what do you have, Charlie Brown? Well, I have this little toy fire engine, but I think I'll just forget about it. So this isn't really cataloging, it's what happens after cataloging, because I'm also the tech services department. A while back, got some new book labels from Demco. Now, you would think that something that says new book would be easy to remove, since, it's not going to be new forever, but they're not. Yeah, I tried to peel one off and it left a lot of sticky stuff, so I had to get out the lighter fluid, and which didn't really work. Yet lighter fluid is wonderful for removing sticky stuff, especially from paper. So anyway, okay, where did it? I happen to have a lot of blue painter's tape rolls hanging around my house, so I brought one in, and I put the new book sticker on top of a painter's tape, and it is designed to come off easily. So that is my little fire engine for the day.
That is an interesting processing pro tip, Fred. Thank you. Because yeah, many of us also do the processing. I'm going to mention the oh, I'm hearing an echoes. Is it only me? Okay. Anyway, another method that's a little gentler than library fluid is these white plastic erasers. And you just erase and it'll ball up adhesive, and then you can just kind of take it off a bit. And since I have my preservation hat on too, I'm going to mention just a reminder that anytime you put anything, Post-it, blue tape, whatever, it does leave some residue behind. So I love the fact that you're putting it on over the Mylar cover.
Well, if the book comes with an interesting dust jacket, there's no way I'm going to throw that one away, but a lot of our medical books don't. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
However, we're not aiming for archival collection.
exactly. Different users, different settings, different needs, of course. So yeah, we've got some discussion in the chat. I'm gonna refer people to them, and yet also mentioning Gugon
I
and a lot of other things.
I just
Oh, I didn't
requested
know
a new
Demco
book.
had those.
I just requested a new book from my local library. We don't do new book stickers here, but if you know the clingy paper that a lot of libraries will use for holds, they actually used a new book sticker that's just like that staticky cling paper. It's like dry, it doesn't actually adhere, and it just has new book on the top. So that might be easier and less work if you can print out a bunch of those and just stick them on.
Great suggestion, John. Okay, we have another. Feel free to chime in more about any of the topics we're talking about. In the chat, we have another question from Blaine. Running into an issue where thousands of bib records in the Koha catalog have non-marked code list for languages, language codes in the 008 fixed field, characters 35 through 37, he thinks. And plan is to use Mark Edit for the bigger sets of editors, but does anyone have any recommendation for cleanup? And there's another mention of slightly related cleaned up 040 fields, which mainly combined inaccurate language codes. Maybe 040, 041 did it with PyMark, PYMARC. I'm unfamiliar with that. I'd love to learn more. So, and regex was mentioned. Folks?
Usually when I have problems like this, the rest of the bib is maybe not worth saving either, but that might not be a helpful. If you have an OCLC number or something, you could easily replace it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point. And we have a comment that PyMark is the best thing. I am okay, I found a link.
Eric, could you say a few things about PyMark for those of us who are shaking our heads in puzzlement?
Yeah, PyMark is a Python library for manipulating mark records. I come from more of a like code web development background, so I tend to use PyMark for things that other people use MarkEdit for. It gives you more granular control over what you're doing. So for instance, with like language codes, when you're trying to do like a regular expression, you can't really, in a regular expression, check for every single possible valid language code that might be in a field, right? Like it would be just an enormous set of possibilities to articulate in a regular expression, but you can pretty easily in a Python script have a long list of like these are the 300 or thousands or any number of valid language codes, and then you just look at the field value with PyMark, see if it's in that or not, delete the field otherwise, like for instance would be an operation you could do. So it's not maybe for everyone, but I do think like writing Python scripts is much easier now that you can just ask ChatGPT to do it for you. Um, so I could talk about it at like a future meeting, or at least like the basic outline of what the tool does.
Or at the koha-US conference?
Yes, also a possibility. I probably won't be able to attend though. I have very limited travel, but
Yeah, I would suggest also the koha-US meeting is inviting special guests. So that would be, I mean, I'd love to hear more here too, but I think we're a real small audience and this deserves a really large audience. And so just to verify too, for those of us who are unfamiliar, is it correct to say that Python is a programming language?
yes, sorry, I should have started with that. But it's a very common programming language that can do just about everything. And then PyMark is like an additional piece of software that teaches it the language of mark records.
Very cool. Thank you. Oh, and we have, thank you, Jason mentioned in the chat, a bug to target positions in the control field using mark modification templates, bug 28915, and supposed to be linked to the Dev koha-US's helping fund. Oh, nice. And yes, the koha-US conference is in Rhode Island this year. Information is on koha-us.org. And Fred, I am sure you will think up a Python cataloging joke.
Well, I have lots of snakes, but only one python. So it's going to be difficult.
Oh, 2 points to Miranda. It will be hysterical. Oh, yes. Okay. We're going to get derailed onto Monty Python jokes. Don't get me started. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the group?
Yes, Heather, could you put the description or the brand name or whatever of the eraser you use?
Oh, yeah,
Or is it a specialized one?
it is not specialized. It's any white plastic eraser. That is, what they're generally known by. The one that I have right here is Stettler
Okay,
Mars plastic, but, you can see it's white and it's plastic. And,
okay.
yes, it offends my little green sustainable heart because it's plastic, but it really does the job. Oh, Blaine also mentions, seconding the white eraser method, that heat guns are getting stickers off.
That's the kind I
Uh-huh.
was thinking, not charcoal.
The lighter fluid.
Yes, and I have special dispensation to have a flammable liquid here in the library. If
Um,
you have ever read John Dunning's mystery set in the book district of Denver, uh, you will learn that uh, if you put some on a handkerchief and hold it up to your nose, that covers the smell of a decomposing body, and it gets adhesive stains out of paper. Uh, I've tried the second, and it really does work.
and yes, the question, is that the same as a polymer eraser? I believe so, because plastic is a polymer. But the ones I've tried always use the word plastic. And the softer, the better. Also, when I haven't been able to get something adhesive, and I'm trying to reverse the adhesive. And also have to mention, don't try these methods on anything that's really super valuable or unique. This is for, your average circulating collection. Sometimes yes, the heat gun. If I want to go more gentle than the heat gun, what I will do is, I take just basic ceramic mug, whatever you've got your tea or coffee in, and I fill it up with boiling water, and then I set that on top of it. And that's enough gentle heat to kind of start a process. It's not really going to hurt anything, but it's enough gentle heat if you set that there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, to then you take it off and you see if heat is having any effect, that gentle heat. Sometimes it needs a little bit more heat, and if you're willing to go moisture, you can do that heat. And if it's not giving, but it's something that's paper or fabric that might react to moisture, you can then dip a Q-tip in water and apply that gently to the warmed item and see if that helps. I must confess, with a lot of our circulating collections, that oh, the moist heat with the tea bag. This is true. With our collections, if a label isn't coming, I'll just label over it if it's a question of we're labeling. So, throwing it out there again. Anybody have anything else? Oh, yes. Thank you for mentioning David Library Carpentry. They added a beta course, Introduction to Mark Edit, not Koha specific, but yes. And thank you for the links. I took a library carpentry class that introduced Open Refine too. Love library carpentry. Thank you, David.
I have a Z39 question. So we also basically get our records from vendors and then use Z39. We had long, for many years, used Milwaukee and also Seattle, and I think they've both gone to maybe Bibliocommons or something like that. And I just didn't know if anybody else was still able to use them. Any suggestions?
I
Are
think
there
we are. Oh, go ahead, Jason.
are there particular, so I mean, we don't use either of those. Um, but you say like suggestions, are there particular types of records that you're looking for? Because I mean, we've used, you know, like Vancouver a lot. We've used, I mean, for a number of years. That's been a solid source. San Francisco Public I use. But I mean, I guess are there particular, are this just
We've
like
got a
any kinds of records or like certain types of collections?
not anything specific. Milwaukee had just been one that was out there, like it seems like from the beginning of Z39, and they were very reliable.
Hmm.
Seattle also had been out there on the lists, the public lists where you could
Mm-hmm.
get the setup for them. And they both were just really good, great ones to rely on. And
Hmm.
we have a lot of others we do use, but we really loved those.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we do use King County. We found Omaha is fairly good. Trying to think of some of the others, but um, usually you could, if you could find one library that was using like Innovative or Polaris or whoever the ILS was, you could sometimes figure out the credentials for another library. And I don't know anything about Bibliocommons, and I haven't yet looked to see like who could I contact at Milwaukee to ask them, you know, do you even allow this anymore?
Is anyone using Library of Congress as their primary source?
It's not our primary. We use it. We use that. I mean, I'll put our list in the chat because I could go on and on. But yeah.
I use Library of Congress via Z3950 for authorities.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Both of you.
I mean, in terms of like where to get that info, I don't have. Oh, nice. Oh, Miranda has the directory there. I had found another directory through Library of Congress's website, but I think it's a little outdated because I plugged in the what do you call it? The Multnomah County one and it didn't work. But one of our librarians has a connection at Multnomah, and so she contacted them and they replied back with a completely different like almost everything on, you know, almost all the elements were different. So oh.
Great resources mentioned in the chat. I'm also going to mention too that I've found that the Z3950 to and from OCLC using the OCLC record numbers pretty quick. It's probably just my works setting laptop network, but sometimes the bib gateway is just kind of slow, but the Z3950 will just nail it.
Is there a way to pause Mark Edit's queries if you're using a list of, say, ISBNs? I heard something about it and I tried to find it, but I couldn't remember. Because when I load up a lot of ISBNs and do a bulk search at LC, I get maybe 2, and then the system just stops returning anything. It just gives me a lot of error messages. I think they don't want the system to become overwhelmed. Yeah, this looks like a project I have to investigate and then share.
As I was just going to say, let us know what you find out. Kind of circling back to other ways of cataloging, I wanted to mention that one site I find really, really useful when I'm cataloging fiction, poetry, that sort of thing, and I want to add a lot of genre terms, is Library Thing. It on its records for titles, they often have all of the editorial reviews that you can read about what something's about, but they also tend to have really, really helpful Library Thing user reviews. So that gives me a lot of ideas too. And also, it's kind of surprising what you can find there also in other languages. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the group?
Well, all right. Back to Library Thing. A new colleague at a hospital across the street has all her collection cataloged in it, and I've referred people to Library Thing if they find Koa a little too overwhelming. Has anyone used it extensively and cataloged on it? Could you say more about that?
I use it just for my personal library, but we use it for thanks for coming, Miranda. My husband and I use it for almost everything. We're branching out into putting our DVDs on it, movies we've streamed to keep track. Oh, yes. Thank you, Margaret. Using it for the church library. It has a lending feature as well. So when we lend books and movies to people, we can check them out and keep track of who has what. I will put a link into the chat to our Library Thing library.
Is there a source for cataloging records for CDs and DVDs?
Yes, it has, the import is vast, thousands and thousands of libraries and library consortia. And also it will import from Amazon All Media. All right. Putting a
And as
link to
long
our
as, sorry, go ahead.
David also mentions, oh, is it inventaire if I'm going to say it in American English, or is it French inventaire?
I'm not sure, but I think it's French.
A link in the chat. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And Fred?
Oh, anyone have a source for cataloging Audible titles? Like, I can download a list of titles I own, but it's basically uses list for cataloging. And I listen to a lot of books to and from work, and when I'm cleaning house and cooking.
So I don't use Audible for my audiobooks. I'm mostly using the public library via the Libby app, but if I can't find an audiobook source to import into library thing, now get your pearls ready. I will sometimes just import a record for the print book and change the media in library thing to audiobook. I know, who am I? Oh, yes, and David mentions LibriVox. I love LibriVox. Yeah, open source audiobooks. I find a lot of those via archive.org, Open Library also. Love them.
I'll say with LibriVox, the quality of the narration varies widely. Let's listen to a version of Pudd'nhead Wilson. The narrator sounded so horribly depressed and miserable, and he wanted to make everyone else depressed and miserable.
I love, David, that you know people that do narrations. I find them charming and accessible, and like I'm sitting in the room with regular folks listening to a story while I do things. I love the Elizabeth Gaskell books on LibriVox. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to bring to the group?
You need to have the right voice and express your characters well.
Acting.
Yes.
Well, I think I might go ahead and end the recording then. Thank you all for joining. We'll see you in April. Oh, before we leave, I will mention, yes, I am retiring April 30th, but yes, I'm going to continue volunteering in the Coho community.
We will not let you go.
Yay! Aw, thanks. Thanks for the congrats. So here we go. I'm going to stop the recording.